You think you're in pain and then you learn real pain. And hopefully I don't learn any more real pain. So in my 20s, I was in the financial industry. When I grew up, I had some educational challenges, reading, dyslexia. So I got picked on at times and that caused pain. Then I got into this industry and I was a savant. So I didn't know pain. I felt like a rock star. Then I had some medical issues, got hooked on Oxycontin, got hooked on heroin. And then I knew pain because I lost who I thought I was. My identity was my business card. And when I lost that and I was just a junkie at the end, shooting heroin, lost everything, all the material stuff, the house, the businesses, the money. More importantly, I lost myself.
Hi, Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother.
Thank you for being here. Welcome to Peak Performance Perspective, where we help entrepreneurs master health, wealth, and relationships. I have to start by asking, what does peak performance mean to you?
Peak performance to me years ago would have been chasing money or getting in shape or chasing girls and having a good fat, like the outside stuff. Peak performance to me now is getting up on time, taking some time to pray, meditate, journal, being at work, being efficient for my clients, being present for them, being a tremendous dad, making sure when she needs me, I'm there. When I'm with her, I'm not anywhere else. I guess it comes down to presence and the ability to do well wherever you're present. That's probably what I would say is peak performance.
What do you think caused this transition in you?
I always say I had a fall to gain it all. I think what happens is when you feel enough pain in the way you're living, pain's a motivator, at least for me. I'm not one of those guys who goes out and makes changes because I'm such a smart guy or great guy. I make change when I'm in pain. Now it's not as much pain, so I lower the level of the threshold before I make adjustments. I think that's what motivates most people.
Suffering gives us wisdom. Books just don't. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Tell us a little bit about some of this pain that you experienced that caused you to mold yourself to be this version that you are today.
Wow, there's different versions of pain. What I thought was pain, different points in your life, you think you're in pain and then you learn real pain. And hopefully I don't learn any more real pain. So in my 20s, I was in the financial industry. When I grew up, I had some educational challenges, reading, dyslexia. So I got picked on at times and that caused pain. Then I got into this industry and I was a savant. So I didn't know pain. I felt like a rock star. Then I had some medical issues, got hooked on Oxycontin, got hooked on heroin. And then I knew pain because I lost who I thought I was. My identity was my business card. And when I lost that and I was just a junkie at the end, shooting heroin, lost everything, all the material stuff, the house, the businesses, the money. More importantly, I lost myself. That was pain. I'm out on the street. I thought it was pain when people would try to rob me. Young kids would be passed out somewhere and kids would piss on me and all this awful stuff that happened. And that was pain. I thought jail was pain, but I grew from it and I learned. And I was able to rebuild that same business, but far more successful. I was able to be of service to people. I put people before myself. And I thought I would get over the other side of pain. And I had a daughter and I found out she had autism and that was pain because I didn't know how to make that better. And I didn't know where it would go. Would she ever speak? Would she do this? And then I saw her grow and flourish. And I said, wow. And I thought, wow, I'm going through a divorce. I thought that was pain. It started getting easier. And one of the closest people in my life was like a little brother to me. He committed suicide a month ago. And that was pain, a pain I've never known. Because I was spending time with him. I was trying to help him out with some stress in his life. And there was nothing I could do. I thought when he left me and 5 hours later, he shot himself. And that was real pain. And that's when shit gets real. Because that's stuff you can't come back from. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And recently, somebody I loved, a younger member of my family, was going through some stuff. And we couldn't get in touch with him. And that was pain. I think that's the thing is there's different levels of pain. But when you grow through it, you realize I'm grateful I can be present. Yesterday when something was going on with that young relative of mine, I spat with his mom and I watched her cry and I cried a little. I could be present. When my cousin took his own life, I could be there for him before and I could be there at the services and respect him and I could be present. I think the greatest gift I got or lesson was that life changes and two things. You don't have to cling to the pain because it'll be okay again. And you don't have to cling to the good times because it'll suck again. And if you can just stay in the middle, it somehow works itself out.
But as someone who has gone through so many highs and lows, where do you find that strength and courage to get punched in the face every single time and still get back up?
It's funny you said it. I've used it now. My cousin had asked me that right before he passed. He said, how are you so strong? He was going through some personal stuff and it was stuff that I'd gone through, my relationship issues and some of the other challenges I've had. And he was never into drugs or anything like that. He was a great, solid kid. But he said, how are you so strong? I said, I'm not strong. I surround myself with people that are stronger than me. God puts people in your path. And if you're nice enough and smart enough to cling to them, strong guys ask for help. And that's where I get my strength from people. Ultimately, those people put my hand in the hand of God. And I'm not an overly religious guy, though I believe in God very strongly. But I know there's something out there. I know when I live the right way and I just tap into it, even if I'm not sure it's there. Even times I've doubted God's existence, if I've tried to have faith, it still worked itself out.
If I'm listening to this and I'm struggling and I'm trying to find that courage, and Ryan just said, I surround myself with the right people and I have faith in God. Can you tell that person a little bit more about some tangible things they could do today to put themselves in a position where where they're surrounded by the right people? Because almost always when you're a junkie, you're hanging out with junkies. When you're broke, you're hanging out with broke people. So how do you change that environment?
You shift your mindset. So the guys I work with, when I speak at places and when I coach gentlemen, I talk to them about it's a psychic shift. You have to take everything, your preconceived beliefs, everything you thought was, get rid of it and change who you're supposed to be. You have to start thinking differently. You have to think your way. You're never going to act your way into the right life. You've got to think your way into it. You have to literally say, this is where I want to be. Visualize yourself there. Keep focused on that and then take action. And action might be one step a day. Maybe if you want to get in better shape, you go to the gym for an hour. If you want to be financially successful, maybe you make that call to that person. I've had guys call me up and say, I can't afford for you to coach me, but I'm struggling. Is there any way you can point me in the right direction? And I'll give some advice. I'll say, yeah, let's check in once a week for the next month. It's not going to cost me anything more than a half hour a week. And people don't realize, reach out to the right people. There's somebody who has what you want. Most of us, I'll tell you this, when financial guys call me, when guys in sales, marketing, mortgage guys, they say, Ryan, the mortgage industry sucks right now. How do I do this? I'm like, all right, give me this. Make 10 calls. Give me your top 10 people. Ask them for, and I can coach them through it. I think the problem is so many of us don't have the humility or we have the fear around reaching out to somebody.
Absolutely. The fear of asking for help and being rejected. How did you develop this personality that you weren't afraid of rejection?
You said, well, be punched in the face. So I always say life's like a boxing match. You get knocked around, but if you could stay in there and get to the bell, you're in there for the next round. You might knock the opponent out. I got the crap kicked out of me so bad in so many ways emotionally that I had to realize that something, once you overcome that, nobody likes rejection, but the reality is tough shit. You know what? Other people's opinion of me doesn't matter. I learned that because when I was in jail, there weren't a lot of people writing me letters, sending me cards. When I went through a tough time recently, there weren't a lot of people calling me saying, hey, we're sorry for your loss, this and that. And you realize real quick who matters.
Was the turning point in your life when you were incarcerated?
I wish I could tell you it was. The turning point in my life, the real turning point. When I was incarcerated, I got out, I started reading positive books. My mother would give me one gangster book, but I had to read a self-help book after. And I read a book called, first self-help was Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways by this woman, Susan Jaffers. She had breast cancer. So how am I going to relate to this woman? I relate to everything. Her fears, 99% of what I fear doesn't happen, so on and so forth. Every book she recommended, I read after that. So I did train my mind, but what really shifted was this. I was always still afraid of outside opinions. Mid-30s, late 30s, I get married. Just to get married because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I have a child because that's what you're supposed to do. I did a lot of selfish stuff. I did it for me. What changed was I pulled up to my house one day and I got a nice house. It's nice for me. It's what I wanted to build my way. So I did it. Sitting in a Ferrari and I'm like, and my daughter's inside, my ex inside. I'm looking at the house and I'm thinking, why do I want to die? That was when it changed. When I realized that I got everything God wanted. I used to say, God gave me everything I wanted. Then he laughed. I got everything. The cars, the house, the BS, the watches, and all that stuff. And that's just nice when you're in a good place. But I was in such a bad place. And that's when it changed for good.
At that moment, when you're sitting in the Ferrari outside your beautiful house that has a beautiful family, what was happening in life that you wanted to end it? What were you going through?
Going through less than I'm going through now. You know the truth? It's all where your head's at. My life wasn't that difficult. I was getting overpaid, underworked, driving what I wanted, had a beautiful daughter. She was actually starting to excel with her autism. My ex and I, we weren't a good fit. But at that point, it wasn't that. I got really ugly, but it wasn't that ugly yet. There were glimpses of it, but it wasn't. A stepdaughter who I loved, I still love, but I don't have her, unfortunately, in my life. It was nothing epic. It was an inside job. And that's why I tell people, it's an inside job. Once you get wealthy, the money comes. People are like, what do you mean once you get wealthy, the money comes? Like, easy. When you take a deep breath and you start breathing in wealth, you're present, you pray, you really believe you're trying to be of service every day when you get out of bed. You really try to help other people. And I always say, what defines you is what you do for somebody who can do nothing for you. Like, we just called the Council of Concern the other day, which is a food pantry where we live. I said, how you doing on turkeys? Well, we need 300. How many you got? We got 160. We'll bring 140 in 2 weeks. That's the shit that matters to me. Like, we just adopted 60 kids for Christmas, families that couldn't do anything. I always say, if what people remember me by is what I made or what I drove, I was an epic failure.
So was it that at that point in your life when you're sitting in your driveway, you were just doing everything for yourself and not giving others? That was the emptiness in you?
Yeah, it was about me or we. Like the people around me, I took care of, I made sure of it. And I was still doing charity stuff, but I was doing it just to say I did it because I used to do it. Now, like, I'm back enjoying it. We just adopted a bunch of kids. Our clients adopted some kids. We do a lot around the holidays. We do a pie day. We give out pies to our existing clients. It's just about being part of the community. I think people don't realize we're tribal people. We're not meant to walk alone. You always hear about the lone wolf. Yeah, wolves travel in packs. Lone wolf might howl alone, but he runs with a pack. Trust me.
So the moment you realize this thing, that you're not living the life that you want, maybe it's unfulfilled in some ways. What was the first step you took to change things?
Like guys in AA that I knew who I saw at bad places. I was suicidal, and I really was. But then at the same time, I was of service. Right when I was at a point where I really thought I was going to die, I stopped talking to my parents because they were supportive of my ex who did something vicious to me. I was going through a divorce. My ex was trying to take my daughter from me, using my past against me. My cousin needed me. And we've always had a yin and a yang. When I've called him, I remember being in jail and I called him. He's a state police officer. They don't take calls from thugs. Took every goddamn call. He was the only person I never missed a call. He missed one call and he apologized after. When he needed me, it took me out of me. It saved my life. And then now I gotta tell you, I'm a different dad. I'm a different guy. My relationship's different. Wednesday night, I took my 2 nephews out to dinner. Nothing fancy, but I just like seeing their faces. I like being a part of their upbringing. I'm blessed to have them. I lost a lot, but I had to, like I said, I had to lose it. If I didn't lose what I did, if the old Ryan didn't die in the part of his life that was there didn't die, I could be reborn into this. I don't mean that religious sense. Like, you got to change. I don't know who you were before, but I know you were this guy.
How did spirituality play a role in your recovery, and how has it then influenced your approach to business and mentorship? Because you're doing things completely different now.
Yeah, it is. It's very different. It's not all about money. It's about being a service. I'm enjoying the ride now, the journey. Spirituality. I remember being in jail and a guy said to me, "Hey, did you pray to God to your obsession to do drugs away?" And I was like, "Well, God, where was God when I was abused as a kid? Where was God here? Where was he there?" He's like, "Shut the F up." He's a friend of mine. "Shut the F up and pray to God." And jail's very segregated. But I grew up in an area, there were black, white kids, yellow, green. It didn't matter. But me and Sean, my buddy, he's like 6'6" black dude. We hung out while we were in jail together. Now, everybody looked at us like we were weird. Like, why are you two friends? And he goes, "Go in that cell, hit your knees and pray." And he goes, "And I'll turn him back and nobody will even see. I'll stay in front of the door." He was a monster. And I did it. He said, "How do you feel?" To the exact same. He said, "Do it again tomorrow. We'll do it." Every day, and day 7 came, and I never thought of heroin again. And from that day, I never put a needle in my arm. And that's been, 12 years and change, 10 years, 13 years. It's been a very different ride. Guy who sponsored me, he said, "Hey, read The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale." Then I read Think and Grow Rich by you. The one thing I realized about all this, take the money stuff aside, they always had a spiritual ring to it. There was some sort of twist of spirituality paying it forward. Yeah, have success and bless others. There's nothing wrong with making money. I heard one guy say, money makes the man. I was like, and he's right. You're generous, you're more generous. If you're thoughtful, you're more thoughtful. If you like to help people out and spend time with people, you do it. Money does make you. It makes you who you are. It helps accentuate who you are. And I think spirituality, I pray before every client meeting. I'm not ashamed to say that. I ask God to help me be a service. And then I just leave it to him and things go all right.
Tell us a little bit about how you built and then had to rebuild this financial practice. What were the principles that out of this life-changing experience that helped you do this?
It's funny. In my 20s, I was all about making money. And I probably managed 10, 20, 40, $50 million. I was very self-seeking. I charged fees and all that stuff. It was about me. I want to make sure if you had this much money, you got a little more at least. You never lost, but I made more. I want to make sure I made more than I was making normally. Losing everything and being a junkie. I remember walking down the street, and I'm walking down Nice Street in Boston, and I'm in a tracksuit. I'm 260 pounds. My teeth are smashed out. My face got scars. And I walked by and almost touched shoulders with a guy. I looked back. It was my older cousin who I grew up in the same house. We're like brothers. The one who died, it was his older brother. And I said to myself, he didn't even recognize me. Thank God, because I'm such a junkie. And all I want to do is be back in the financial world again, be proud of who I was, look better, feel better. And fast forward, when I got back in it, when I was in my 20s, I got referrals. That's how I grew. This time I didn't have, nobody's referring you business when you get out of jail. I learned how to do workshops. I gave seminars. I taught things. I realized I was pretty good at connecting with people. I wasn't the greatest public speaker, but people would see my heart. I knew that. And it grew. And I realized I'm good at this. I like teaching tax class. I like doing this. And next thing I know, it just exploded. We probably manage about 10 times what we used to manage. And it's nice. I'm able to make sure I have other people, staff members, that their lives are going on. It's just nice.
Talk about anxiety. So many people are crippled with the anxiety because either they're living the mistakes that they've made in the past, or they are so afraid of future that they are unable to take action, right? And it's easy to say, hey, don't worry about the past or don't worry about the future. But those things are easier said than done. For someone who's an entrepreneur who's really struggling, right, and is anxious about what's going to happen, the political climate, this climate, that climate, what's going to happen to my business, what would you tell them are some good ways to tackle this monster?
When you're worried about your business right now and what's going on with the political environment, I'd say, hold on to your seats. Things are about to get real bad for some and real good for a lot of us. Because it's going to be an atmosphere of, if you want to bust your ass, you're going to be able to get what you want out of life. But if you want to cruise and put your feet up, and I'm not saying do one policy or another, I'm just telling you where the world's going. The younger generations are getting softer, a lot of them. They're not focusing on growth. You're an anomaly. It's like a unicorn, because most people your age, they're so focused on what can I get? I don't want to work. I want to be more happy and fulfilled. And it's, no, you have to bust your ass. It's good to be fulfilled, but you have to contribute a little to the stream of life. So it's going to be very interesting. I tell people when it comes to anxiety, I've had bad anxiety over the years. Probably, oh, excuse me, my daughter was up all night. Sorry. Probably the worst anxiety I've had in a long time. And I will tell you, I've been always taught, move a muscle, change a thought. You have an anxiety, get your ass on a treadmill, go for a walk outside, lift a weight. You'll end up getting dialed into that. Take deep breaths while you're doing it, and the anxiety will go away. If you really can't break it up and you're at work or somewhere where you can't go for a walk, grab a book, start at the bottom right-hand corner of the page and read it backwards. Read every word backwards. It breaks up the thought pattern like that. And things like that. That's when I coach guys. I say to them, listen, these are the things we're going to do. These are the things we're going to implement. Because you're going to have anxiety. There's going to be tough times. If you're on top of the world, you're worried about how do I sustain it. We're having a record year this year. You know what I think at times? How am I going to duplicate this next year? How am I going to do this well? Not like, hey, I've made plenty of money. I could take a year off too. But it's like, how do I do better?
In your financial practice right now, you're obviously helping clients with many things. One of those things is that you are a retirement specialist. What are certain misconceptions that people have when they're preparing for retirement?
I love the moment people say, I'll just draw from my portfolio. And they have a stock portfolio, mutual funds and whatnot. They have $1 million in it. They want to take 50 grand out of your live on. First year the market drops 40, but now they get 600 grand. They take out 50 at 550. It's called the double dip. They'll never recover. If it goes up 10%, that's 55 grand. But hey, they need 50 to live on plus inflation. Next year it goes up 20%. They made 110. They need 50 to live on. Next year drops 20%. They're below 500. They don't even get back by. People don't realize you have to have a blend of financial tools. They go to some advisors and some advisors say, you can use annuities, life insurance products. They go to other advisors and say, we'll build a stock portfolio. You go to some real crooks and they'll say a mutual fund or a variable annuity. You need a blend of everything. And people have this misconception that they need one or the other. They don't realize, and none of that matters if you don't do the tax planning. It doesn't matter if you take $1 million, double it to 2. If Uncle Sam says, hey, you're a 70% bracket, you now get what? 600 grand. You gotta be tax favorable. There's gotta be Roth conversions. There's gotta be some LERPs involved. Certain tools that'll get you to that next level. I think that's what separates our practice from other practices. And I'm always learning because I like this. It's a hobby to me. I've already made my money. 45 years old. Like I don't have to chase. I don't need a fancy life anymore. I've chased you and I both know stuff is like chasing a ghost. You might as well chase a pile of coke, a pill, money. It's all the same. It's just get short fulfillment, but then it's gone. But for me, it's about like, how can I add value now? How can I see these clients like killing in retirement? How can we beat the system, get them tax-free income? That's the good stuff for me.
So if someone is listening to this and he's listening to Ryan saying, okay, you got to have a little mix of everything. Can you give us a little bit more detail on what are some things they could have?
Absolutely. So when a client comes to me, oftentimes they'll say, hey, Ryan, I've got $1.2 million of my retirement money all combined. I've had a good career. And we say, okay, what are your expenses? Ryan, I need 7 grand to live on. Social Security gives me and my wife 5. We're short 2 grand a month. Let's say I need 3 grand a month. Let's make it a little larger. Okay, to get 3 grand a month, that's 36,000 a year. Okay. Ryan, if we factor in taxes, okay, we're in 20% bracket, blah, blah, blah. Now we need 42,000 a year. But let's say the standard deduction, the tax break you have that they give the government for 2 people, last year was 2019. Let's say it's 30,000. If over the next 4 or 5 years, I can shift out of your $1.2 million, 300 grand to Roths and it grows, 140,000 over 7 years to a LERP. A LERP is a life insurance retirement plan. It's using life insurance to create self-directed income tax-free. Now we just put 40 grand over in that category. All of that money is tax-free. So now we're sitting there with probably about 7,000 or 8,000 in the retirement money. What we do is we convert it over the next 2 more years. We get down to 500. The RMDs on 500,000 again end up being like just under 20 grand. If the standard deduction is 30, we take 29,000 out of your IRA. Your Social Security's say 60 grand. So now we're at 89,000. And we take another 30 from a Roth or a LERP, 20 to 30. Now you're at 109, 120,000. Tax-free. You're under the standard deduction, which means there's no taxes, which makes Social Security non-taxable and a Roth non-taxable. A couple just left here today. By the time they're 70, they'll never pay a goddamn tax. They're 65. And they go, how can you guarantee? I'm not doing math here. I'm making this up. Here's the numbers. Here's the system. They're like, wow. So when the Congress goes to a 3-tier bracket, 25, 63, and 88, starting in 28, maybe 2030, depending on where the Congress goes, but it's coming. You can sit back and say, hey, 0. If I pay no taxes, I don't care if you charge me 88%. If I'm paying 0, that's key. Under there, you can use annuity tools for the guaranteed income. So index annuities now are tremendous. They have 0 to 10%. You get the first 10 and you lock it in every damn year. Imagine if you go back to 2000 and lock in 10% gains, up to 10% of the S&P, and if it went down that year, you just got a 0 without a fee. That's tremendous. And then instead of mutual funds, ETFs. ETFs are far more cost effective. You can achieve the same goal and they're transparent on the fees. So there's no more BS. And then top of it, you can even ladder some CDs because you got to have some money in the bank.
So when you're helping clients build this secure nest egg, right, and this reliable income for retirement, other than the tactical components of things that they don't know, what do you find is a struggle, an obstacle that they have in their mindset that they need to overcome?
You got to allow themselves. My true opinion, you have to allow yourself to be successful. So many of us, we hold ourselves back. We have goals in mind and things we think we could achieve. And even if we hit those goals, we think those are a reach. There was a day where I thought I could never make $1 million in a year. My firm, obviously, these are higher numbers. Then I never thought we could get to the 2 million firm mark. And I never thought I could get in good shape and lose a certain weight and get down to a waist size in my 40s. So I was like, I didn't realize I need discipline around my eating. I needed to be an adult and take responsibility for what I'm putting in my body. I never thought I would be a guy who took vitamins all the time, or get on a normal sleep pattern, or work out in the morning, wake up. There's all things you can implement, but you have to allow yourself. You have to really set the expectation and say, okay, I'm able to do this. God works for people. We're all created the same. I got news for you. I used to watch Michael Jordan dunk on TV. I said, dunk. At that point, I was like a 5'10" white kid at 5'8". I remember I'd hold a basketball in bed. I'd envision myself dunking. My freshman year of high school, I was 5'9", 5'10". I was dunking a basketball. And people say, how you doing? I said, I don't know. I just kept thinking about doing it. Eventually I could fly. And by senior year, I was dunking over people's heads. I'm only 6 feet tall, 6'1". I envisioned it. I really believe, like, I used to walk on a railroad tracks to the gym. A guy gave me a free membership. And I'd walk there and I'd watch a video on this phone called I Need a Doctor by Dr. Dre. And he had this Ferrari. And I said, someday I'm going to buy a house, pay it off, and buy a Ferrari. And that Ferrari's in my garage right now. A lot of the things, and that's the material stuff, but I want a baby. And I was told, you can't have a baby. Your sperm count's too low. Doctor put me on medicine. Boom. I believe that people don't allow themselves weeks. Set the bar much lower than it needs to be. Let me ask you, look at what you're doing. Don't you feel as though people, every age bracket, set the bar, they settle for less?
And I've always wondered why that is. What causes people to do that? Is it just the upbringing? Is it the school system?
I think the school system is a big part of it. I think the schools, they teach people to make good employees. Who gives a shit if somebody can memorize numbers and how to do algebra and all that stuff? I'm a math guy. Really, who cares? And you memorize like literature. Yeah, it's nice to educate people, but we treat them like they're goddamn sheep. It's like captivity. We should teach them how to think, how to find their goals and tap into it. I think some of it's our upbringing. A lot of it's the school system. I also think people's brains, listen, we were wired to know that if I walked out of a cave, I got to be afraid because it might be a saber-toothed tiger about to eat my ass. We're back. That's how we were built. So we've always had that fear mentality. What's the worst case? What could go wrong? I think what we have to start looking at is like what's going on. And myself, I'm saying this, but just so you know, I gave a presentation last night. I did pretty good, but we didn't have nearly the business we should have got out of it, I think. Driving after, I feel I said, what am I doing wrong? I'm losing my touch. And then it hit me. I'm like, you know what? I'm driving down the street with a Ferrari, smoking a cigar. Like, I don't have to worry about a mortgage payment. Like, I'm going to be okay. I got to smarten the F up. And then this morning I walk out and I was telling this gentleman about an advisor who I had read a thing on years ago. Wow, he's a big producer. He brought on $10 million of assets a year. And it was cool. He had a cool watch, a cool Range Rover. And then my buddy goes, you just got a brilliant new Range Rover. You have a nice watch. And you do 3 times that a year. And I was like, I know. You don't see, we don't believe that we're capable of big things. How old are you right now?
38.
38. If I could go back to 38 and learn the stuff that I learned or what you're learning now, man, I just didn't think I was capable. I always doubted myself. And anything that came up, whether it was a complaint at work or this and that, I always thought, what did I do wrong? I never looked at myself and had self-esteem and said, hey, you know what? I'm a good guy. I'm good at what I do. I'm amazed by a guy your age doing this.
Thank you. What has being a father taught you about resilience and responsibility? Because you brought it up a couple of times about your relationship with your daughter and how you wanted to be the best version of yourself for her. So what has that taught you about all of these? And also, obviously, responsibility.
Everything. Being a dad is the greatest gift anyone can ever give you. The money, the cars, watches, the house, you thought that was something until you had a child. My daughter has taught me, her having autism was the greatest gift God ever gave me. Because it changed me. It made me learn about somebody else and care so much about somebody else. I just want to make their life better. And then it made me better. She's amazing. I get her 3 nights a week, and we're in the process of working out a full 50-50 split because I want half the time without a doubt. Work goes on hold. When I have her Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon, people, I don't care if the place burns down, just don't call me. She is my world. It taught me humility because I realized what I didn't know. There's a lot of stuff you don't know. They don't come with a playbook. It taught me love, the desire to implement values in somebody. I want her to know about God. I like her to see her cousin, take her in jail the other night. I want her to know that people love her, and I want her to give love. I wanted her to blast through every goddamn barrier they told me she wouldn't hit with her autism. She might never speak well. She speaks great. She might never be able to learn this. She has disability. She can spell her own name. She can do this. I said, you can give me the roadblocks. I want to show you as she blasts through it. It's taught me a lot more focus and discipline. There is nothing more important in my life. It's also made me realize that there's a lot bigger than us. There's a world that God gave us, the universe gave us, or whatever, spiritual, the universe, whatever you want to call it. There's something here we get to live in that's so much bigger. And really, someday you and I will be gone. Nobody's going to care what you drove, what your abs looked like, none of that other crap. What you leave behind is like how you love somebody, or you implement in them or teach them. My cousin lives on because of like the values I learned from him, like the way he carried himself, the way he cared about everybody. And I'll tell you, I went through phase where I didn't, but now everybody I come up against, I'm like, hey, how's your day? You know, what's going on? People I had no interest in, I was so busy walking by them because I was so lost in my head. I take time to see them now is much more. Having my daughter has taught me that tremendously because I see other people and their struggles with kids. And I also realize how lucky I am. Like, there are people with kids with autism that can't afford to have the resources I have. And she gets a good life because of the success I've had. And she drives me to have more success. I had a bump in the road a few years ago. where I literally wanted to die. And I literally looked for life insurance to leave money behind for because I was so messed up in my mind. It was about 5 years ago. And then I remember seeing her and thinking, when she started saying Duddy, I can't leave this kid. I got to find a way to make all this stuff work. And through the grace of God, I did. It's the greatest teacher you'll ever have. Most humbling, definitely the most rewarding thing I've ever had. I didn't know I could feel love like this. I honestly thought for a long time that I just wasn't capable of loving people with a deep love.
Why did you feel that?
Pardon?
Why did you feel that you couldn't?
I think somewhere I'm a weirdo with numbers. So at a young age, I was a savant and I was trading stock on TV in 7th grade. So as a result, I think some of my focus on math and the way I was wired, I did really well around my family, my cousins, my aunts and uncles. I was very warm around them and I love them. I could show affection. My nephews, I could kiss them on the head and say, I love you. They're like 18-year-old kids. But I have a struggle with outside people. I can love them to a certain degree. If I'm not at work or doing something that I'm comfortable with, it's very hard for me to be very social. I always could love to it, but there was like barriers. Like I could love girlfriends, but there was barriers. My ex-wife, like I can't, but there was a barrier. There was never like that true, like when me and my ex were breaking up, there was never a time where I thought, oh, I'm going to miss this. I might miss this. And I was like, all right, thank God, get her out of here. This is over. Nice. And she probably felt the same way because she's wired that way too. But normal people don't feel that way. People have some sort of sadness about what was lost. I didn't really feel much of it. Maybe I will at some point. I will say this with my daughter, I never ever feel anything but pure love. I drive her to school on the days that she's going to be picked up by her mom, and it's not going to be my night the next 2 nights, and I cry after I drop her off every goddamn time. And not sob, but I cry a little, and I listen to music that reminds me of her. I tell guys, if you're getting divorced, if you're with the wrong person, it's good because when you're with your child, you'll be able to dial in. But if you can make it work, waking up to your kid every day is hitting the lottery.
You alluded to this before. It's not about what we have to do. It's about who we have to become to have the life that we truly want, right? So when you're when you're coaching other professionals now, what are some key qualities that you think is essential for someone to rise to their fullest potential?
I think there's a number of things. Grit. I always say, I'm one gritty son of a bitch. I'll hang in there. You can beat me with a baseball bat. I'll hang in there. I might not be the toughest guy, but I'll make sure I hang in there. Because if you hang in there long enough, things will go your way. I think another big quality is love. I want to know. I tell somebody once told me, tell me your why. Tell me why do you need to be successful? Some people say, oh, I love helping people with retirement plans. Okay. Why? Because I like to see them because my mom and dad, I always say my mom, my aunt, they were housekeepers. I didn't come for money. So if I can make sure people that need money to last can have their money last, I'm proud to do it. And it means a lot to me. Tell me your why and then tell me what you love. Like what? It's usually tied to your why. For me, my daughter, once I had her and once she started talking and we had real interactions, lights out. I'll never not perform because I'll die trying. I won't even die because I'll take care of myself because I care that much. So I think I need to know their why, what they love, like what matters the most in their life. And then they have to have grit and tenacity. They have to realize that it's not, if you want to have success, there's going to be more failure than success. The success makes it worth it, but there's far more failure. Look at what was it? Was it Einstein? No, Edison. He built this plant in Boston and he built this nice plant. It was beautiful. And it was worth like $1 million back in whatever year it was. And the thing caught on fire and he went to his son. He had insurance on. He went to his son, go get your mother. She's got to see. His wife comes. She's like, what's going on? He goes, you'll never see a fight like this again. Everything he had was burned to the ground. And here's a great story about the impact parents can have. This kid goes to school and they give him a letter and they said, bring it home, don't read it, give it to your mom. So he does. The mother starts crying. He says, Mom, what's it say? Your son is so bright. He's brilliant. We can't teach him. Something to that effect. So please homeschool him. She homeschools him. Years later, this mother dies and he's cleaning out the diary and the folders and all. And he finds that note. It says, your child is inept. He is mentally disabled. Please do not send him to school anymore. It was Edison's mom. Edison, they said he was inept in this. So it just shows you they're just not teaching people the right way. So it's really mindset, the ability to hang in there and believe in yourself or admit when you can't believe in yourself. I've called guys and cried and said, listen, I think I'm losing my touch. I don't think I have what it takes anymore, blah, blah. And there are guys that can say, no, we're going to get you there. You're all right. So every one of us needs somebody.
You talked about legacy. What do you hope your legacy will be for those who are listening to this, following your footsteps, both in the world of finance and personal development?
Leaders serve. You want my honest opinion, leaders serve. I want people to say, hey, like he was a service. He did a lot of charity. He cared about people. When I'm dead, I want somebody, my buddy Billy always says, you take some nugget from that person, you carry it with them. Like my cousin Scott, I make sure that every time I see somebody, whether I have any interest in them at all, whether in my path or I go out of my way or I cross paths, I ask them how their day is and I genuinely give a shit. Like God, they're from Scotty. I hope they take from me to be of service and be kind. Be kind to people who can do nothing for you. Because that's what defines you. It doesn't define me how I treat a client because listen, I make money, right? It doesn't define me how I do my daughter, things for my daughter because I love her to death. What defines you is how I do something for a stranger, somebody like a homeless person, like the veterans we deal with around the holidays. And when we do it for them, like they don't want to see it. I do it for me because it fills me up. And that's the shit that defines me. me. And I hope people carry that on. Again, if I'm remembered for my money or what I drive, I'm a failure.
Ryan, your life, you have reinvented yourself multiple times around, overcoming addiction, being incarcerated, coming up with a reset button on your career, redoing things all over again, going through a divorce, rebuilding a life. It is a testament to what you talk about, which is resilience, strength, but also a belief in a higher power, an understanding that we can be the best version of ourselves if we truly try to. And over that, above all of that, in a world where nobody cares about anybody, in a world where we are so selfish and we're worried about just our own things, you go out of your way to make sure you're there for others for no other reason, just to be there for them. And that tells us so much about the type of person you are, the type of heart you carry within yourself. So it is nothing but an honor and a pleasure to have met with you and gotten a little glimpse into how you think. Any last words for our audience members?
I'm really grateful for what you do. I think it's pretty spectacular. If somebody's out there and they need help, whether it's coaching for business, whether it's just personal development, or simply they say, hey, listen, I just need help. I'm going through a hard time. After losing suicide, if you're out there and you're in pain, reach out, cracking the code with RyanSkinner.com. If we can do anything to help somebody's life get better, because frankly, what you're doing, that's what they're helping people. Somebody's going to see us and hopefully get a little help. Somebody's going to see one of your other episodes, get a little help. That's how you contribute to the stream of life. So thanks for your service.
Thank you, Ryan. It was great having you on the show. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother.